Joanna, would you please call the roll?
Barb Politsky.
Here.
Ron Van Kirk.
Here.
Tony DeMarco.
Here.
Debbie Tomusko.
Here.
Kathy Pucci. Here. Mary Belbeer.
Here.
Kevin Tansky.
Here. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have approval of a couple of sets of minutes tonight. The first one is dated June the 12th, 2017. I did have one change that I already let Mary Jo know. The rest of council, underneath the approval of minutes, the motion by Tansky, the second was by Ms. Politsky, not by myself. I was not at that meeting. So I will exercise a motion to approve the minutes dated June 12th, 2017.
May I be recognized?
Yes.
One more change on page 2 under the Economic Development Committee report, which is the second paragraph. The third last line, when I was reporting that the committee recommended a sale with 2 stipulations, I'd like to just put the stipulations in there because I think it kind of makes the reader kind of hanging as to what they were. I believe it was, and Mary Jo could check the recording, but I believe it was that we would be maintaining an easement and that they wouldn't be able to build. And then the other thing is, we need to add on the signature page the approval date. So I'll make a motion that we approve as amended.
Second.
To approve as amended, Barb Politsky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Abstain.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes. Next is a set of minutes dated June 26th, 2017. Any comments or questions from council?
May I be recognized?
Yes.
We just need to add the approval date on the signature page on this one also. If there's nothing else, I'll make a motion that we approve as amended.
Second.
To approve as amended, Barb Politsky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Today is September 11th, 2017. 16 years have passed since the worst day in American history. None of us will ever forget where we were when we first heard the news of what was happening in New York, then in Washington, and then in Pennsylvania on that dreadful Tuesday. We all stood transfixed to our television screens watching live buildings falling, people running, and families of missing loved ones praying and hoping that their worst fears were not true. All of us went from disbelief to anger to anguish and to finally resolve. As with all American tragedies, stories of American heroes started to surface. It's become evident in the 16 years since 9/11 that we were hit and hit hard. However, America did not falter and we have not failed. I've always been proud to be an American. On that day, an extra sense of grief, yes, but was combined with a pride that was truly unmatched. Today, America lives and is strong. I pray every day for our nation and her safety. Would you please join me in a moment of silence in remembrance of the 412 first responders and nearly 2,600 Americans who lost their lives by cowardly terrorists September 11th, 2001. Thank you. Welcome back. This is our first regularly scheduled meeting since the summer recess. I trust that everyone had a blessed summer. While council is technically on recess throughout the summer, we did meet several times, and I would like to just talk about some of the things that we discussed and passed as far as legislation goes in the summer. On both June 30th and July 3rd, special meetings were held to discuss rules of council. On July 6th, a special meeting was held. We authorized a $2,000 community cost sharing agreement with the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District for the Big Creek Watershed 9-element plan project. We also authorized the mayor to enter into a ground lease with Cuyahoga Urban Renewal Solar 1, LLC, for the development, design, installation, and operation of a solar-powered electric generation facility on a portion of the land located at 9400 Memphis Avenue, which is the former city dump. The city will be paid $18,000 in rent for 20 years plus $4,500 per megawatt for any additional panels added. Then we met again on July 17th, 2017. There was a liquor permit request from 7317 Northcliffe, the Wingstop restaurant, and that was passed with no objection. Then there were the following requests that were made by directors: authorized to advertise for bid with the Assured Service Program for the Rec Center. The existing contract with Brewer Garrett was to expire in September. We accepted a grant from the Ohio Department of Public Safety for $4,050 for EMS equipment. We also accepted a $2,000 grant from the United States Figure Skating, and that was for new ice skates. We also passed a resolution extending a moratorium on medical marijuana. We approved the 2017 replacement pages to the codified ordinances of Brooklyn. We approved the submission of the electorate of amendments to the city charter, and they are on the city's website, but I will read them this evening. There are 4 of them. 1, this is how it reads on the ballot. Shall Article 3, Section 2 of the Charter of the City of Brooklyn be amended to clarify that council members may not serve in any other compensated elected public office or in any other public positions over which City Council has control. Number 2, shall Article 3, Section 6 of the Charter of the City of Brooklyn be amended to provide that the council member receiving the highest number of affirmative votes amongst the council at its annual organizational meeting shall be elected for the position of President of Council, President Pro Tem of Council, member of the City Planning Commission, and member of the Recreation Board. Number 3, shall Article 5, Section 3 of the Charter of the City of Brooklyn be amended to provide that the Director of Finance shall appoint the Clerk of Council, subject to Council's right to reject the appointee within 30 days, and provide that the Clerk of Council shall keep the records of the Council and perform such other duties as they were required by the Charter, Council, and the Director of Finance. Then lastly, shall Article 5, Section 10B of the Charter of the City of Brooklyn be amended to provide that any legislation establishing a zoning district or changing a zoning district of any parcel from one district to another must be referred to the electors of the city at a general, primary, or special election, and to provide that notice of such election shall be published in accordance with general law in a newspaper or general circulation in the city. You will see those 4 proposed amendment changes on the ballot on November the 7th. Those were the changes that the Charter Review Commission came up with and presented to council to place on the ballot. And then in that meeting, we also amended some various rules of council. We then lastly had a special council meeting on August the 14th, 2017, in which we passed a change order with Eclipse Company LLC for the Tiemann Road project in the amount of $20,427.61. And this is the last change order for this. I believe this was the 9th change order. A couple of other items. Over the weekend, there was some confusion on Rodone Road in regards to the road construction that took place over there. And Katz Construction failed to inform residents of construction enclosures on Saturday, September 9th. They did send a letter out to the folks there that were affected by that on Rodone. This is also posted on the city's Facebook page and the website. It reads this: Dear resident, please accept my sincere apology for failing to inform you about the construction that took place on Rodone Road last Saturday, September 9th, 2017. Katz Construction will be diligent in notifying the residents about any future major construction on Rodone, including any construction that will impact the access to your driveways. Should you have any comments or questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact me directly. Sincerely, Michael Dempsey, and he is of Katz Construction. Then lastly, as many of you may have read over the weekend, Medical Mutual has signed a non-binding letter of intent for a long-term lease for more than 300,000 square feet of office space at One American Road with the former AG property. We've been referring to this potential project as Project Century. While everything is tentative until a lease is signed with Medical Mutual, we are confident that the project will be coming to Brooklyn. Tonight, we'll introduce legislation to provide a community reinvestment area, real estate property tax incentives, along with a new job retention and creation income tax credits to offset a portion of the cost to consolidate new office space in Brooklyn. At the close of my Finance Committee report, Mr. Schaefer will explain more. The proposed CRA initiatives will provide abatement of up to 50% of any new and additional real estate taxes created by the increased valuation resulting from an estimated $23 million of real property improvements that will be made to office space. We will also enter into a tax revenue sharing agreement with the Brooklyn School Board to offset the potential impact on school tax revenue. We will also propose to provide up to a 30% rebate of income taxes generated by the jobs relocated to Brooklyn on a declining percentage based over 6 years. The additional new income taxes generated by the Medical Mutual jobs will help reduce the adverse impact of nearly 2,000 American Greetings jobs that relocated to Westlake in this time last year. This is a project that our Economic Development Director and Mayor have been working on for quite some time. I am pleased that Medical Mutual has taken the first steps in joining Brooklyn's family of businesses. All credit belongs to Medical Mutual for making a great decision to move to Brooklyn, and I very much look forward to working with this fine business. We've been talking about the AG property for a long time now, and it's wonderful to see some new businesses moving in. If everything goes as planned, Medical Mutual will be moving in 2020. We will now proceed with our normal council meeting. At this time, we will have the public session. If anyone in the audience has anything to say for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn, please step forward, state your name and address, and you'll be recognized. Please remember to keep your comments to 5 minutes or fewer. First up is going to be our city engineer, Mr. Doug Courtney.
Hello, everybody. We had a few issues with the road-on project over the weekend, as I'm sure all of you heard. The contractor, Katz Construction, failed to notify residents of a major component of the construction, which was milling of the pavement. We milled anywhere from 4 to 5 inches of the asphalt off the pavement, which created some issues with driveway access and so on and so forth. The contract with Katz Construction requires 48-hour notice if people are going to be cut off from access to their driveways or anything like that. They also failed to properly manage their maintenance of traffic plan. Katz was invited to this meeting to address council. They chose not to attend. Nobody from Katz is here. They had planned to attend. I got a text at about 6:05 saying nobody was going to be here. So they sent a letter of apology to residents, which President of Council has read for you. I know that went out today because I saw them doing it. And I will entertain any questions that you may have.
Are we going to do that now?
Yes, that's fine, since he's up here.
Okay. May I be recognized?
Yes.
I mean, it was a total fiasco. I was there at 8:30 in the morning, was contacted by a lot of residents. You know, I think they also forgot about the people on North Lane, South Lane, and East Lane.
I agree.
And, I mean, the cars that bottomed out, you really couldn't tell if you were turning onto one of those streets. It looked like the far edge, which would be the east side, was maybe okay, but then it wasn't until you were actually going down
Right.
that you could see that that first edge was...
Right. I was also on site Saturday and noticed that they had both North Lane and South Lane closed, which
Right.
is a problem. So we remedied that.
And it was the same 4 hours later when I came back.
Was it?
There was absolutely no
What time was that? Around noon?
8:30 to 12:30.
Because I was out there around 2.
Yeah,
I got out there
12:30.
around
It was the exact same. They had not made any progress.
Okay.
Just a couple things. Could you explain the role of our inspector that's there?
The inspector is to observe and document the construction. He's not there to direct the operations of the contractor. He can make suggestions, say, hey, you might need to take care of that, or take care of this, but he cannot direct the contractor's forces. Cannot order them to do things or anything like that. We had a substitute inspector out that day because our regular inspector had weekend plans. I couldn't get him on the site. So Leo was a little unfamiliar, but we were in contact with him in the morning to make sure that the ramping was occurring. Apparently it wasn't occurring quickly enough, and I think that is kind of compounded by no notification. If residents were notified, they would have had the expectation of having been out of their driveway for a certain period of time.
Well, they removed their cars the night before so they could get out.
The lack of the notification, I think, if the ramping wasn't happening, it doesn't matter how fast it was happening, it wasn't happening fast enough. So,
May I be recognized?
If I could just finish.
Oh, go ahead.
Just a few, I mean, I'll tell you what my experience was and then also what I heard from residents. First of all, when they were doing the ramping, it was a very, very small area that any even average-sized car would not have, it wouldn't have covered that. And it wasn't really a ramp, they were just putting material down in a very narrow fashion.
okay.
The other thing is when residents started complaining to them and they said, okay, yes, we're going to ramp it, and then certain residents, they went back and said, okay, now it's done. They neglected to tell them that now you have to get out because then the ramp was going to be removed. So
Okay.
there were some residents that were very aggravated by that the lack of communication. So for example, 2 people I heard from, they're like, okay, thank you, thinking they're going to leave in an hour, and then...
An hour later, the ramp was gone.
Yes, exactly. And then, I know of 2 people who could not get out to go to work that day. One shared with me that for her it was okay because she was able to go in Sunday, but wasn't planning on going in on Sunday. So, just from the beginning to the end, this was handled horribly. And I don't know if Mr. Butler can answer this, but there are certain requirements in the contract for a reason. Do we have any recourse with them that they did not, they basically created a total fiasco that day.
We haven't made that determination yet, but we're reviewing it internally. I was made aware of the situation earlier this morning by the mayor. I appreciate that. We haven't been able to talk about contractual remedies yet, but we will.
If you could keep us posted on that.
Sure.
This wasn't just one transgression. This was a whole series
I agree.
that was totally on them.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. May I be recognized? Okay.
Yes, Mrs. Belvier.
Go ahead.
Mrs. Belvier, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. It personally affected me, and I'm usually not a complainer about this because in my business, I've had construction for the past 15 years. But this truly was a fiasco. Because of North Lane, South Lane, East Lane being a horseshoe, you were unable to get out either way. And I was on my way to Mass, 4 o'clock Mass. I couldn't make it. The only thing that I can honestly say was thank God for Officer Brad Washburn, I hope I'm saying that right, who moved the barrels and let us drive, on 2 wheels and kind of like go this way and then cut up Hurricane Alley. But one thing that I did notice, yes, there were absolutely no notification, and I thought that was very strange because to be totally cut off like that was so incompetent, that was really. And there were no managers around because I then approached, I was not afraid to approach the workers and say, hey, let's get some boards here or something just so cars can go over it. Mm-hmm. But they had no one to even go to ask. It seemed like there was nobody who was watching the fort here. So I don't know if we can get a little bit of a discount on what happened, but it was terrible. It really was.
We'll be looking into that.
Yeah,
with the letter.
I just hope they do follow up and they do give the notification to the residents because some of my residents were, one particular one was a nurse. Yeah, he had to go to work, and it was like, that would have been awful. I was thinking, and they wouldn't let you through. They just would not let you through. Thank God for Officer Washburn who helped me out. So I appreciate that.
Mr. Musco?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I was going to comment in my report tonight, but I live off the alley between Orchard and Torrance, and we can't get out. The alley is our only way to get out of our house. And we have elderly people back there, we get ambulances coming back there. And the biggest thing is they haven't informed us of what's going to happen. The first, the signs went up that it was going to start on June 27th, and June 28th they came and they ripped up the entire court, and that they didn't give us notice on, and it was this like huge German tank looking this thing that ripped up my bushes, ripped up my neighbor's bushes. Had we known in advance, we would have cut the bushes back, that this thing was just going to barrel down the middle. And then after that, we didn't see anybody. That was it. There was like no other activity and complete lack of communication. So thanks to Chief Mielke for letting us park in front, because we didn't know from day to day if we would be able to access our house or not access the house. And then, let me just finish and then I'll think, sorry, I'm just like, because all the neighbors are calling me, Deb, you're a councilwoman, tell us what's happening tomorrow, tell us when this is going to get done. And I kept writing to Director Verba, and everything he told me turned out not to be the case. So I was passing information on to people based on what he thought he knew, and it turned out not to be the case. And then one night, like, we didn't even know about this, like 2 in the afternoon, they poured this gravel tar stuff in front of each one of our driveways. And again, they didn't tell anybody. So a couple of kids in the neighborhood, my dog, and the neighbor's dog down the way got this black tar gravel stuck to their paws, which we had to clean off with turpentine. I mean, if I would have known they were going to do that, I would have kept my dog off the back alley. I mean, it's just been one after another. And then finally they said, okay, we're gonna finish it. And then I got a notice that as far as they're concerned, the alley is done until they're gonna put a final top coat. Well, drive through it. We've got gravel everywhere that's pinging our cars. We've got steel plates that continue to shift. So sometimes your tire's falling into a hole. We've got a drop of about 4 inches coming down the hill. If that's considered finish, oh, woohoo, I can hardly wait until, they put the final coat down. And then the only other comment, and I don't want to belabor this, but I don't know why they are fixing portions of the curbs as opposed to just redoing all the curbs. They're having this guy come in and saw cut little portions like this big, and they're replacing a curb like 5 inches. And then they go down a couple feet and they replace a little curb of 5 inches. And everything else is left broken up with grass and crappy looking. If you're going to do it, why don't you just do it? So I have nothing. Mr. Verba, I've been writing notes to because I've been endeavoring to not only for myself, because I've had to get out to doctor's appointments and things, but my neighbors, and we don't know from day to day. And as I said, Chief Mielke's been nice enough to let us park in front. But I guess the biggest point I want to make is particularly, again, reinforcing the lack of communication, complete lack of letting us know, right. Can we access our driveways? Can we not? What they're going to be doing the next day. So, yeah, I guess, I don't know if it's a subcontractor issue or what, but these guys really need to step up their game.
Well, that's a prime contractor issue, and I feel your frustration because for the duration of this project thus far, one of the most difficult tasks for us is to try and get this contractor pinned down onto us to some schedule to tell us what's going to happen from day to day, to week to week. The perfect example is what happened on Saturday.
Yeah.
All last week, we were getting emails that the milling was going to occur sometime this week between the 11th and the 16th. On Friday at 10:30 in the morning, I got an email that it was going to happen on Saturday. So, and with the milling occurring on Saturday, they told me they were going to seal the Rodone pavement, which is just a chip seal coat so that the joints don't start blowing up and it keeps the dust down and gives them a surface to work on without further damaging the pavement. That was supposed to happen this Thursday. Well, now it's September 23rd. So, and I talked to the contractor this afternoon when I was on site and told him September 23rd isn't going to cut it because we're going to lose more of this pavement by that time. He said he was going to check with the subcontractor, and I have not heard back.
Yeah.
So we're as frustrated as you are with trying to pin this guy down to his schedule. So.
And that was my question, isn't there a kind of project management where you have schedules and milestones? And I was told the only date that matters is the end date.
Well, that is the critical component, is the end date, because if he moves beyond, if he does not meet his completion date, then the city has the ability to charge $500 a day for late completion. That's in the contract.
And for what it's worth, the schedule for Road on Road, Mary Jo posted today. Today they were supposed to mark out repairs. Tomorrow through Saturday the 12th and the 16th, they're supposed to be doing saw cutting and milling of the intersections. Then next week, Monday the 18th through Friday the 22nd, they're supposed to be doing point repairs. And then, as Doug just mentioned, on the 23rd is when they're going to be chip sealing of Road on Road and the surface of the
right. And that's the critical component that I was mentioning. I'm not pleased at all with that September 23rd date for the chip sealing for the surface on the alley because we've been pressing them ever since they put the first coat of asphalt on the alley to get the surface course on the alley. And now that that's not done yet, and now Rodone's opened up, we need to get that done sooner, so.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? Thank you, Mr. Courtney, for coming and answering our questions. Very much appreciate it. Mr. Welcome, please keep us apprised to what's going on there, and thank you for staying on top of cats as well. Appreciate it.
Doing our best.
Rob Slattery, 4396 West 62nd. First of all, I just want to thank Brooklyn Police Department and Mark Murphy. The chief advised me who the officer was. For lack of terms, I'll call the guy knucklehead to clean it up. He blasted through the intersection of Ridge at 66. Could have hit my mom broadside, luckily missed her. And Mark was able to flip around, stop the guy, got him for the speed, got him for the red light, and also he was driving under suspension, so if you pass it along, I appreciate it. Secondly, Brooklyn Acres is offering a Meet the Candidates Night, September 20th, Wednesday the 20th at 7 p.m. All the council candidates have been advised. I apologize for missing your email the first time. I sent another one last night, did you get it?
Thank you.
Okay. Everybody's invited. It's open to the public. Come up, ask your questions. We'll have small little nibblers and some drinks, and you can come up and meet all the candidates. So it's open to the public. We hope we see everybody there. Thank you.
Steve Herbick, 4402 South Amber Drive. I just wanted to thank the service department. In July, the street right in front of my entrance to my driveway on the apron had crumbled to the point where the rebar was poking through, and I wasn't able to really access my driveway. Called the service department, they responded very promptly, and the supervisor and the crew were polite, professional, and I just wanted to let the service department know that I appreciated everything they did to fix that problem for me. So great news about Medical Mutual moving to Brooklyn and occupying the American Greetings building. It's fantastic news for our city. I've heard some of the details. We'll bring in approximately 750 jobs and a minimum of $57 million in payroll over the next several years. Even though this is truly great news, it belies a much bigger issue. It is imperative that all Brooklyn residents remember how much we were lied to about Issue 3 during the city's sales presentations. We were repeatedly told that no one would ever move into the American Greetings building because it was a Class B building and it had rose-colored glass on the outside. The Medical Mutual deal has been in the works for a very long time, and yet no mention was ever made of it by Economic Development Director Udris or the mayor. Let's also remember the initial cornerstone of the need to pass Issue 3 was to prevent Victory Capital from leaving the city, taking its tax dollars with them. We were beat over the head repeatedly that unless we tear out the park and build them a brand new Class A building, they would leave. Everyone should know that Victory Capital signed a new 5-year lease with Key Bank, and they and their tax dollars will not be leaving Brooklyn anytime soon, if at all. So more great news exposing even greater deceptions or complicit ignorance. This Issue 3 wasn't just a simple zoning change. This was literally a direct transfer of power from the residents of Brooklyn to City Council to make any future PUD development decisions. There's no way we can ever have an effective city government at any level if Brooklyn leaders do not have the complete trust of its citizens. Thank God we still have our beautiful park, so very, very close to losing it forever. On Election Day, remember those that fought and voted to save it, and equally important, remember those that voted and campaigned to destroy it. Imagine no more picnics in the park, no more fireworks. Imagine no more Fall Fest. And again, this is why on Election Day, November 7th, our city needs now, more than ever, the leadership and most importantly, the integrity of councilpersons Mary Balbier, Debbie Tomusco, and Kathleen Pucci, and not a group of candidates primarily consisted of mayoral yes men and women. Side note, I'm in no way referring to candidate Grodick. I honestly don't know her. I never met her. I don't even know what she looks like, but I don't want her to think that I was including her in my comments. I also want to invite all Brooklyn residents to meet the candidates tonight at the Brooklyn Acres at their hall at 6301 Woburn at 7 p.m. on September 20th. Please bring with you any questions you have, and the more challenging, the better. Lastly tonight, please let's say a prayer for the brave men and women, especially our incredible first responders who lost their lives during the horrible 9/11 attack, and also any family, friends, or people whose lives were terribly disrupted by the recent hurricanes. Thank you very much.
I'm Chris Ellis, I'm board president for the Chamber of Commerce. Andy Eders and a couple other people thought it'd be good for me to just kind of come up and comment a little bit on the picnic in the park we had on August 19th. So, first and foremost, just kind of a little background on the event for everybody and certainly for the residents. Cedar Grill was our food vendor that day. Hopper House was also our food vendor. But we were lacking a couple as well. I know a couple people commented on that, certainly in the dessert end of things. 3 of our food vendors backed out, literally at 1 o'clock in the afternoon when we were starting the event. 2 of which were together. It was a family that had both a food truck and the hot dogs and hamburgers of all things, which would be great for picnic in the park, and then the ice cream truck as well. It was disappointing. It's one of the challenges. I know you guys face it too. These food trucks are, they're not under any contracts. They don't want to sign any contracts, and they'll basically tell you, you want us or you don't. I think one of the things that we've kind of learned, or I've kind of learned over the course of time is, it's an Edgewater Live or something like that. They know what they're getting, they know what kind of money they're making, and they kind of push to get into there. But something like a picnic in the park, which was relatively new, and we understand that, they just don't know what they're going to get. So it's kind of a hit or miss, and that's what happened. So my apologies to the residents on that. Like I said, it was our intention to have 2 dessert trucks there, and that would have been nice. We did scrounge a snow cone vendor for a couple hours that somebody on the board knew. It was another event, came to us afterwards and agreed, so a couple hours there. And then he ran out of ice, and we couldn't blame him because he wasn't supposed to be there anyway. So we appreciate at least giving a couple hours out of that. So again, we appreciate Cedar Grill and the Hopper House for all they did, and hopefully next year we can get some people under contract or hold them to what they say they're supposed to do, because it certainly is disappointing when we have an event like that didn't happen. Everything else went fantastic. I hope everybody agreed. It was our biggest event up to this point. We would never imagine, even think about having to count on who showed up for that or how many showed up for that, but it was big. It was huge. We certainly appreciate that. The kids area was a fantastic success. Time Warp Band played the afternoon session, and Fast Lane, which is an Eagles tribute band, played that evening. They were both success, and then of course we had our fireworks at the end, which I think everybody appreciated. Just a few people to thank for the event, and most importantly our residents, or your residents of Brooklyn. Without them, obviously this wouldn't be a success. We thank them for everything that they gave us over the course of the day. City officials, obviously council, Mayor Gallagher, John Verba, who was instrumental for us as the service director for getting that event set up, and certainly the police and fire chief behind me here, because obviously that wouldn't be what it is without their support. I'm glad that you decided to put a truck there for the fireworks as opposed to things. Yeah, good call. I'd hate to have a fire at the end of all that. And then most importantly, the board. The board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce worked tirelessly, not just during that event, but there's certainly a ton of prep that would go into that prior to, so we thank them for all their hard work. So again, we thank everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again next year. Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, we will now move on with reports of committees, commissions, and boards. We begin this evening with Public Safety and Environmental Committee. Councilwoman Pucci.
Thank you. The Safety and Environmental Committee met Monday, August 21st at 6:30, and we discussed the following topics. The first was the medical marijuana. We had implemented a moratorium while we had time to learn what the state had in store for this, and then also discern whether we wanted any dispensaries or growing facilities in the city of Brooklyn. At the end of the discussion, there was consensus among the committee members, and it's myself, Mrs. Balbier, and Mrs. Politsky, that we want those in need of medical marijuana to have access. However, it would be too much of a drain on our police department. These establishments have a security risk. They deal primarily in cash, and therefore they're very vulnerable to robberies. And we did hear from Chief Milkey, who was opposed to it, so the committee recommended that we not have any of these facilities in the city of Brooklyn. And we do have an ordinance on our agenda this evening. Next, we just had a quick review of dogs in Memorial Park. We started allowing dogs in the park, and at the time we said we would make sure we checked back to make sure everything was working okay without any problems. I checked with Chief Milkey and Director Verba, no problems at all. The auxiliaries had reported that sometimes someone would have their dog off leash in the lower park, but when advised they put them back on the leash, and that there are no problems in Memorial Park with dog waste. We're still having a major problem with dog waste at Marquardt though. Not so much on the path, but on the soccer field, and it's most likely when people are letting dogs run off leash. So please, if you take your dog to Marquardt, please observe the rules and be respectful of other residents. What's happening is the kids are showing up for soccer, and there's dog waste on the soccer field. They're stepping into it, which is not a pleasant situation. So please, if you're going to Marquardt with your dog, make sure you pick up after them. We discussed community interest in establishing a neighborhood watch program. We had a good overview from Chief Milkey and Sergeant Knapp. Neighborhood watches are not run by the city. The city can provide information and assistance, but it has to be run by residents. Sergeant Knapp still has the list from last year, and we will contact those to see if they're still interested and gauge the level of interest in other residents. Additionally, there would also need to be a person who would volunteer to coordinate this. We had a lot of complaints about wildlife, specifically skunks and raccoons. We had a discussion on this. I had done a little bit of research to see how other cities handle these situations, and some cities do provide full service. Most, even if they do provide the service, they have limitations on it. I did speak with Chief Milkey about the possibility of approaching the city of Brook Park to see if they would be interested in collaborating with us. They have a full-time ACO and a part-time officer, and I know the chief did contact the chief over there and waiting to hear back from that safety director. I had asked Chief Milkey earlier, a while before we even had the meeting scheduled, to establish e-commerce safety zones. These are places where, because they're under video surveillance, residents could feel a little more comfortable if they're buying or selling something on the internet as a meeting place. We are going to have one in the parking lot and one in the lobby of City Hall, and I know the chief secured a free sign for the parking lot. Do we know when we're going to be able to put the signs up? And
I'm trying to get another free sign.
right, for the lobby?
Not left to make one yet.
Okay, okay. And that completes my report for the Safety Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pucci. Next up is Domestic Abuse Commission, Councilwoman Politsky.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. In 1994, Congress enacted the Violence Against Women Act. In 1995, Linda Johannick joined the Domestic Violence and Child Advocacy Center in Cleveland. In 2001, a very progressive city council passed Ordinance 2001-1 and created a Domestic Abuse Commission in the city of Brooklyn. When Mayor Gallagher and I met with Ms. Johannick last year, she informed us that we were one of very few cities across the state that have such an ordinance. Thank you to all of the council people who passed that ordinance. As of August 3rd, 2017, after 22 years of service, Ms. Johannick has stepped down from the position and an interim CEO has been appointed. In a Plaindealer interview recently with Rachel Dissel, Ms. Johannick stated that what has not changed is blaming the victim. Hopefully that will change in the near future. Our Domestic Abuse Commission will continue to look for ways to help that day come sooner. That ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blitzky. Next up is the Board of Zoning Appeals, Commissioner Kolsar.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. Catch up on the most recent meetings for the Zoning Board of Appeals. The July 20th meeting, there was a request from Shamir Crawford for an appeal of the Planning Commission decision on July 6, 2017 to deny the conditional use for a daycare facility in an RB retail business district at 4672 Ridge Road, parcel 433-07004. This was approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals. The August 17th meeting was canceled. Next meeting is going to be September 21st, Thursday, 6 p.m. here in the City Hall Conference Room. And the board will be hearing a request from Newt Vu for 230 square foot variance for a 378 square foot additional accessory structure at 9000 Memphis Avenue. They will also be hearing a request from Ann Latessa for a variance of 13.5 inches for a fence setback from the right-of-way, a public sidewalk on a corner lot, and this is at 4911 Ridge Road. Next request is from Ishmael Ray Matthews for a 48 square foot variance for 192 square foot additional accessory structure at 10225 Harmony Lane. It's going to be a pretty big meeting for the zoning board this week. Next request is from Labella Associates for a variance to the minimum required landscape area of 25% and also a variance to the minimum 20-foot setback for parking lot expansion at 9500 Brook Park Road. This request never mind. Move on to the next one is a request from John D'Amico for 18-inch height variance and an 8-inch side lot line variance. This is at 6119 North Cliff Avenue. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kolsar. Next up is the Planning Commission, Councilman DeMarco.
There were a couple planning commission meetings over the summer break. The first one was on Thursday, July 6, 2017. A request from Shamir Crawford for conditional use for daycare in an RV retail business district at 4674 Ridge Road, permanent parcel number 433-07004. That was denied by the Planning Commission, but was subsequently approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals. The next meeting was Thursday, August 3rd. 2017, there was a request from Agile Signs for sign approval of 2 illuminated wall signs at 7420 Brook Park Road, permanent parcel number 433-20004. That was approved. There was a request from Riverstone Company, David A. Piantrone, PE, for a final site plan approval at 4800 Idlewood Drive, permanent parcel number 433-14070. That was approved contingent on the city engineer's final approval. And last meeting was Thursday, September 7th, 2017. There was a request from Jimmy Hignitz for approval of 3 banner signs on building for a temporary business at 4798 Ridge Road, permanent parcel number 433-07008. That was approved. A request from Labella Associates for approval of an additional parking area at 9500 Brook Park Road, permanent parcel number 433-18001. That was approved contingent on zoning variance approval. And finally, a request from Jim Yerkchat of Campbell and Associates, Inc., authorized agent for Raymond and Judith Petrine, trustees for a lot consolidation of 4584 and 4586 Rodone Road, permanent parcel numbers 432-15012 and 432-15110, and that was approved. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. DeMarco. Next up is Economic Development, Councilwoman Pucci.
Thank you. I have a report from 2 meetings, and I'll go in chronological order. The first was, we met Monday, August 21st at 5:45 in the City Hall Conference Room. We approved the minutes from the May 3rd meeting. We also approved a revised letter of solicitation for W. Diamond Group for the former Hugo Boss facility. Our original agreement was with Keystone Tailoring. W. Diamond is the parent company, and Keystone has not been able to meet their job requirements. Most of the Hugo Boss workers were not able to transition. It was a more complicated process with more complicated sewing, and I know they were offered additional training, but it just has not worked out for a number of them. So now W. Diamond is considering relocating jobs from out of state to Brooklyn. We approved an offer that they would have to retain the 172 existing jobs that were in the original grant and add an additional 128 jobs with a total payroll of $14 million. Also included in the letter was an offer for a temporary lease of Community Improvement Corporation land for parking and authorization for the city to allow W. Diamond to use an easement to access the property for parking. They need to have this for adequate parking for their employees while they would negotiate with an abutting property owner to acquire land as a permanent solution to the number of parking spaces they would need. The next report is from this evening. The Economic Development Committee met at 5:45 this evening in the conference room. These meetings are open to the public. We approved the minutes from the meeting of August 21st. We also reviewed ordinances 2017-71, which authorizes the mayor to enter into the job retention and creation grant agreement with Medical Mutual, and ordinance 2017-72, approving and authorizing the mayor to execute a community reinvestment area tax agreement with Cleveland American LLC and Holdings Cleveland American LLC and Medical Mutual. And in the title of the ordinance, it says at an estimated cost of $23 million. And I just want to clarify for people, because I had a few residents that saw that in the paper and thinking that we're giving them $23 million. $23 million is the amount that's going to be invested into the property to renovate it and get it ready for them. So I just wanted to make that clear. The Economic Development Committee did recommend that council approve these 2 ordinances. Obviously, this is very exciting for the city of Brooklyn, and we have been working on this for quite a while. We're glad that Medical Mutual is coming to our community. How the job creation agreement would work is they would have to commit to a minimum of 750 jobs that they would create over a 3-year period. They would be in a 6-year period where we would rebate a percentage of the income tax within parameters, first at 30%, 25%, 20, 15, 10, and 5. Because the payroll is over $1 million, the state law requires that we have revenue sharing with our school district, which is the Brooklyn City Schools and Polaris Joint Vocational School District. And basically, we would have to make them whole for what they would lose in the 50% tax abatement only on the improvement over 10 years. We are going to ask council to consider having it on first reading this evening and then passing it by emergency measure at the next meeting on September 25th. And that I believe Mr. Schaefer is going to go over numbers later. Yes. Okay, I don't want to be repetitive. So that completes my economic development report. Thank you.
Next up is our school board liaison, Councilwoman Politsky.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. At the picnic in the park, we had a Stuff the Bus program, and I was very curious to know how it turned out. So I contacted Dr. Glykoff, and this was his response. So I'm going to read what he said, not my words. The Brooklyn City Schools wants to extend a very heartfelt thank you to the Brooklyn community for the outpouring of donations and support with Stuff the Bus at the recent picnic in the park. More than 8 boxes of supplies and several stocked backpacks were donated by generous community members. The idea, inspired by community members, delivered an awesome collection of donations with our back-to-school effort. Many students have already benefited from these donations and are much better prepared for success in their classroom. Other donations have been placed in reserve for the many needs that arise during the school year. Thank you, Dr. Gleikoff. And a newspaper article from the Sun Post this past Thursday, September 7th. Brooklyn Preschool earned a 2017 Partnership School Award from the National Network of Partnership Schools at Johns Hopkins University. It was recognized for making excellent progress in strengthening and sustaining a comprehensive program of school, family, and community partnership. Brooklyn is applying research-based approaches to strengthen a welcoming climate to engage parents and community in ways to improve student attendance, behavior, achievements, health, and high school graduation rates. You can read about the National Network of Partnership Schools at partnershipschools.org. Congratulations to Dr. Gleikoff and the staff of Brooklyn Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Politsky. Next up is the Finance Committee, and I apologize, we covered a lot of things this evening. I'm only going to go over what we're going to pass tonight and items that are new on the agenda. First up is ordinance 2017-63, and we are hoping to pass this by emergency this evening. This is for the purchase of the My Senior Center system. This is a software program that we've been talking about for a couple years that will help the Senior Center to run more efficiently. And we did talk about this and was approved in the budget session for 2017. And if it's passed this evening, we will be spending $4,000 on that software program. On first reading this evening is Resolution 2017-10. This is approving and adopting the countywide all hazards mitigation plan for Cuyahoga County. And the Cuyahoga County EMA requires that every 5 years that Brooklyn, for us to qualify for county and federal aid, we have to adopt and approve this countywide all hazards plan. It was sent to us today. It's 196 pages long, right? But thank you, Chief, for saying that out. And this is on first reading this evening. Next up is ordinance 2017-64. And we hope to pass this by emergency this evening. This is assessing unpaid costs of abating nuisance and hazard violations of Section 521.14 of the Codified Ordinance of the City of Brooklyn. This is for individuals who have the city has had to come out and cut their grass because their grass was in violation of city code. Mr. Kalsar did include a letter with this and a listing of the properties that are affected. This will go on their taxes. So when they go to pay their property taxes, this will be a lien on those. And the total is $5,625 for all of them. And we are trying to pass this by emergency because there is a filing deadline with the county. On first reading this evening is ordinance 2017-65. This is authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the juvenile diversion coordinator. And this is a continuation of the juvenile diversion agreement with Lou Galizio, with compensation for his position is reimbursed by the county, so it doesn't cost the city anything. And this amount cannot exceed $18,000 during any year. Ordinance 2017-66 is also being hoped to pass by emergency this evening. This adds a clause to Section 2 of Ordinance 2017-32, and it will read this: a pass entitling the participants to purchase in 16 one-hour sessions will be available at a cost of $160 to $200 for a resident, $175 to $325 for a Parma Heights resident, and $190 to $300 for a non-resident, and this is for ice skating passes. Next up is ordinance 2017-68, which we also hope to pass by emergency. This is for an emergency repair to one of our Packers, International Packer 5644. It blew its engine, and it's not slated to be replaced. The vehicle is not slated to be replaced till 2028, so we have to make this repair on this at a cost of $23,604, and any overages cannot exceed $28,000. Then ordinance 2017-70. We also hope to pass by emergency this evening due to a timing issue, and this is to enter into a public entities pools of Ohio for the purpose of providing property and casualty insurance for the city of Brooklyn. The coverage will begin on September 25th, 2017, and the renewal is $1,244 less than 2016. There were some vehicles that we sold that fell off of this policy, so the actual policy itself, the price has not changed, but because we have fewer vehicles, the price went down. And the administration did just receive this week, but we do need to pass it by emergency since It will expire before our next meeting. And the last two ordinances, ordinance 2017-71 and its sister ordinance 2017-72, are the ordinances that Mrs. Pucci referred to in her economic development report. And we did have a discussion regarding these. This has to do with the medical mutual property and finance meeting, and I've asked our finance director, Mr. Schaefer, to explain the numbers for us this evening. So, Mr. Schaefer?
Okay, thank you. What I wanted to be able to do, and I wanted to kind of reiterate what we discussed in the Finance Committee. I gave council, I emailed out this afternoon and gave everybody a hard copy of specifically the $57 million payroll associated with bringing Medical Mutual to the city. So what they are committing to and what the two ordinances refer to are both a job retention and creation grant, as well as a community reinvestment act. And both of those are on staggered schedules. And what I tried to highlight is the activity between 2020 and 2030, when both of these agreements will be in effect. And so what we're trying to be able to do for any of these companies that bring a $57 million payroll, they try to be able to, the cities try to attract them to be able to offset the costs associated with relocation. The $57 million annual payroll will generate approximately $1,425,000 per year over the 10-year period. What we are agreeing to refund in years 1 through 6 of the job retention and creation are 30% of that in the first year, and on a sliding scale downward, 25, 20, 15, 10, and 5% over those 6 years. So that kind of covers the figures associated in that front sheet as far as refund and what the city is agreeing to refund on taxes paid. The other portion of this, the Community Reinvestment Act, is to help offset the property taxes associated with making the schools and the career center whole. And what we were trying to be able to do is enter into an agreement with the schools and Medical Mutual to be able to offset the 50% abatement. And basically what that comes down to for Brooklyn City Schools is over the 10-year period, the city is agreeing to contribute just shy of $200,000 per year to start off with, up to, over those 10 years, we're projecting that would end up at about $218,000 in year 10. The payment to the Polaris Joint Vocational School District is a little bit less, being that that generates less millage, and they will be agreeing to, the city will agree to pay just shy of $12,000 to begin with, and in year 10, just a little bit over $13,000. And that helps offset the property taxes being abated. So what I try to display in this first sheet is working from left to right, the total payroll, the taxes generated, and the components of what we're agreeing to refund and or offset, with the final column that says net to the city, as far as what it is the city is projecting to generate in municipal income taxes over those 10 years. And if you have any questions associated with that, or I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Just in summary, basically, net to the city, according to Mr. Schaefer's very conservative report, net to the city between 2020 and 2030 would be just a shade under $12 million in tax revenue. Payments to Polaris would be about $123,000. Payments to the Brooklyn City Schools is just over $2 million. Then a refund back to Medical Mutual will be just under $1.5 million. So this is a solid plan. It's very exciting to have Medical Mutual coming here. And so I want to thank Mr. Schaefer for putting this together, and look forward to seeing it come to fruition in a couple of years. So thank you. We will now move on with reports of council, and we begin this evening with Mrs. Politsky.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. Welcome back to our regular council meetings. It's been an interesting summer that went by way too fast. Thanks to our Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce for a successful picnic in the park. The bands were great, and the main event, fireworks, were awesome. I'm glad we passed the ordinance to allow dogs in the park. Many families brought theirs along. To us dog lovers, they are family. That said, watching the tragedy of Harvey and now Irma, many shelter animals from those areas are arriving in Cleveland to make room in Texas and Florida for family pets that have been separated from their owners. If you ever planned to adopt, please think about doing it now. Choose carefully if you want to donate to storm victims. Do some research first because there are many scams out there. My thoughts and prayers are with the victims and any residents that have families in those areas. And as far as 9/11 goes, I haven't had the opportunity to be in New York, but I was in Shanksville maybe in 2006 or 7. It was the eeriest place I have ever been. You could just feel those people that gave their lives for us in that area. I hope I never have to feel that again. On a lighter note, the Laurel Garden Club is featured in the Garden Club of Ohio magazine for the fall of 2017. That goes to all Garden Club members in the state of Ohio. The Blue and Gold Star Markers dedication ceremony in Veterans Memorial Park on Memorial Day, May 2017, is a feature article. In addition to that honor, the back cover of the magazine has the picture of the Gold Star Marker, one of only three dedicated in the state of Ohio so far. Thanks to our excellent service department and Marty Reaney, who mounted it on a beautiful piece of granite. And that ends my report.
Thank you, Ms. Blitzky. Next up is Mr. DeMarco.
I would just like to welcome everybody back from summer break. It was a hectic summer for myself, and I hope everyone was able to enjoy themselves. And I just would like to make one brief comment on the Medical Mutual announcement. This is a great thing for the city of Brooklyn, and I'm sure on behalf of myself and all of council, we will do whatever we can to support bringing them here and welcoming them to our city. So this is a great win for the city and certainly for all the residents. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Marco. Next up is Ms. Tomusko.
Yes, good evening. I also would like to welcome everybody back. I hope you had a good summer. I just wanted to briefly comment the Chamber of Commerce days that they had, the picnic in the park. I wasn't able to attend, but I did see the fireworks, and they were just fantastic. I heard it was so nice to see fireworks in Brooklyn, and they were as good as I've seen in any other city. So that was wonderful, although I don't know if the dogs liked them too much, the people that took them, because my dog was scared to death, but anyway. Fall is in the air, and I can always hear the Brooklyn High School football Friday nights, and I understand they've won a few games, so yay for them. Brooklyn High School football winning a couple of games, that's good to see. I wanted to briefly just comment on the Medical Mutual legislation. It's a fantastic thing, as Mr. DeMarco pointed out. The only regret I have is that it hit the papers on September 8th, and now we're discussing it in council on September 11th. To me, it's kind of always nice if we can talk about it and have a chance to talk to the public about it before it hits the papers. But I know there were confidentiality issues and other issues that precluded us from talking about it openly at a council meeting before they made their announcement, et cetera, et cetera. So we respected their wishes, and I just want to encourage people that if you do have questions, call any of the council members, because again, what got reported in the paper, as Ms. Pusey pointed out too, the $23 million is what they're going to invest in the building. And even though it sounds, oh my God, we're getting $57 million in payroll, the net to the city is actually going to be about $1 million per year. So it's still a fantastic thing, but you need to keep the numbers in perspective. And at our next council meeting, our next finance meeting prior to the next council meeting, we'll be discussing it once again. So that's another good opportunity to come and ask questions if you'd like more clarification. What I think is great about this is, number one, the Medical Mutual is drawing people from Strongsville and I believe Beechwood and relocating them to Brooklyn. So yay Brooklyn, that we drew people from Strongsville and Beechwood to settle in Brooklyn. And number two, I'm hoping that as they make renovations to the AG building, it will start to open up that building for other people to come in and relocate there as well. You know, when you have a big company like Medical Mutual saying, hey, we're settling into Brooklyn and we're doing it in this, old decrepit Class C whatever building, hopefully other businesses will come in and relocate to the American Greetings building as well, because God knows we want to get as many of our existing empty buildings filled as much as we possibly can. I just wanted to send out my prayers to Houston and Florida. I used to live in Miami, and this morning I was watching the TV, and it was the road I used to drive to work is a river. So it was kind of interesting. Right down on Brickell I used to live, and it's now a flowing river. And I really have to give my blessings and bravo to the people in Houston, because they have such a spirit. They didn't sit around and wait for people to save them. They got in, they helped each other. I love those Cajun brigade that came in from Louisiana, the guys that had any kind of fishing boat, any kind of airboat, any kind of any boat. They came from Louisiana to Texas to help. And that's what I love to see, the American spirit of, yes, the government will come in and help. Yes, the government will come in and compensate. But God bless, get in there and help your neighbor. And that's the spirit we need back in this country. We saw that on 9/11, a day of terrible tragedy in this country. But we pulled together as one country. And we need to recapture that in this country. Enough of my pontification. The last thing I want to say is, God, let's enjoy the Indians. They are on a roll. I'm having fun watching the tribe, so I hope everybody's enjoying the games. And thank you, that's all I have. And thank you for coming. I really appreciate the people that come to these meetings and the people that watch them on TV. As I've said 1,000 times, we need your involvement and your interest to make this government and this city run the best that it possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Musco. Next up is Mrs. Pucci.
Thank you. I did want to give a report from the Community Improvement Corporation. We did have a meeting August 14th, and this was a joint meeting, I should say we invited members of council, the Planning Commission, and members of the Strategic Planning Committee for the City Center project. We did have a presentation by the consultant, Geis. We received the final report and were able to ask questions. Basically, everybody had already seen what the Plan A was. There is a Plan B that basically calls for no encroachment at all in the park. So I just wanted residents to be aware that we did finally have that meeting with the consultant. One of the other things we got accomplished over the summer at some of our special meetings was that we were finally able to resume our organizational meeting to discuss the rules of council. So I just wanted to briefly touch on what the changes are to our rules. We clarified that the election of a member to the Planning Commission, Economic Development Committee, and Recreation Board are done at the organizational meeting. Under the order of business for agenda items, we added that for presentations, awards, and/or commendations, that there's a stipulation now that the presenter or recipient and whatever the occasion is now will be included on the agenda. So now not only will council be aware ahead of time of this information, but also our residents. We made a change that reflects the current order of business for legislation, which is under old business resolutions and ordinances, and then under new business resolutions and ordinances. We stipulated that when council receives the packet of information for the meeting, which is at 4 o'clock on Thursdays prior to our meetings, that this information is also posted on the website for the public to view. And if you haven't visited the website, there's a couple of little changes that I think are helpful. We've got some new buttons on the homepage right now so that you don't have to go to the drop-down menus. And if you do go to the council under the agendas, you will see the whole packet of information that we see. We added language to ensure that the status for legislation relating to the number of readings is now recorded on the agenda ahead of time. So now we'll see whether it's first reading or if the administration is requesting that we suspend the rules, the 3 reading rule. We incorporated into the rules something that we've been requesting relating to the minutes. Up until this point, we would receive the minutes with the packet, so if there were any additions, deletions, or corrections, it had to be done on the floor of council. The new language states that we are to receive a draft of the minutes as soon as practicable. Then members will have a chance to review the minutes and respond to the assistant clerk with any corrections. By doing this, we'll then have a clean set of minutes to approve at the council meetings. We also added an approval date on the signature page. We discussed Councilman Van Kirk's proposal to begin the council meeting with prayer. There were some concerns that were raised on this, and there was not sufficient support for that. We also discussed making an effort to eliminate some of the redundancies in reporting on legislation at our meetings, and we will now have discussion on legislation when it's on the floor. And we also discussed council members making an effort to be concise in their comments, which doesn't happen tonight since we have so much to cover from the summer recess. Just a couple other quick things. Safe Routes to School in conjunction with the Fall Fest on September 30th will once again have the walk run. It's Rock the Walk, and it's in Veterans Memorial Park. This is a walk and a 5K, begins at 9 a.m. Check-in begins at 8:30. The first 30 participants to enter will receive a free t-shirt. Ms. Tomusko already mentioned the football team. Congratulations. They've had a tough few years. In a small community, it's very difficult when you don't have a huge pool of students to draw from. So it's just so nice for the students, the coaches, and the parents. So hopefully they can keep up the wins. I would like to just take a minute to thank all the directors and chiefs and everybody over the summer. Our calls and concerns from residents increase in the summer months. There's neighbor problems. And I just want to personally single out Mr. Tom Druzak, our general foreman. I had quite a number of issues this summer, and all our employees go above and beyond, but Mr. Druzak was very helpful this summer, so I'd like to thank him. I do have one item that I propose that is up on first reading this evening, and that's to require that we start posting the minutes of all of our public bodies on our website for our residents to see. So this would include Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, Civil Service, CIC, Economic Development, everything. And that is just on first reading this evening, so I'd appreciate my colleagues' consideration on that. I'd like to thank all the residents who came tonight and those who participated. Thank Mr. Slattery and the Board of Directors of Brooklyn Acres for hosting the Meet the Candidate Night. And also thank Mr. Ellis for coming. The picnic in the park was absolutely wonderful. I think this event, they finally turned a corner. They really stepped in to try and fill a void when we could no longer do home days. And it's been growing every year, but really didn't attract the crowds that we would have hoped. And I think it was the fireworks that really did it. So hopefully this will be an annual tradition, and more residents will come out for this. So thank you very much to the Chamber for doing this. And I think that completes my report. Oh, one last thing. Again, I think we all have our thoughts and prayers are with the people with Houston and Florida with the hurricanes. Such a devastation. I know my sister lives in Florida, and it was not a good situation. And also for the families who lost loved ones in 9/11, I think I always try and keep them in my thoughts. It is just a devastating loss. And one of the things that I'm always impressed by, though, and I guess coming from a firefighting family, I'm probably a little bit more aware of this, but what the families who lost loved ones have done in their name afterwards is really phenomenal. I know one of my sons was a recipient of a scholarship that was started for children of firefighters in the memory of a firefighter who lost his life. He was off duty, turned around, and didn't even hesitate going into the towers. And it's just remarkable what the families have done to honor their lost loved ones. So I commend them on that. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pucci. Next up is Mrs. Belbier.
Thank you. Well, it's a little bit bittersweet returning. Summer's over and fall is beginning, but all of us are rolling up our sleeves and looking forward to working real hard. One person in particular I'd like to thank. We have so many wonderful, wonderful residents. And just on the campaign trail, you meet such wonderful people you don't actually get a chance to talk to, but you meet when you go door to door. And one lady I'd like to mention, her name is Debbie Simuek, I hope I pronounced that correctly, who has such wonderful talents and ideas, and just a compassionate, wonderful heart for children. She sews little bears, little teddy bears. There's not a face on them or anything, but they're just a little cuddly little type of felt bear. And she donates them to firehouses, to the police departments. Whenever there's a tragedy around and there are children involved, they pass the police department and the fire department or whoever are able to pass them out and give them to a child. And it's actually very comforting and very, very soothing for them. So I'd like to give a little shout out to her, and that's one of our Brooklyn residents. You don't know how many wonderful, wonderful people we have out there, but I'd like to personally thank her. She's just a marvelous woman. Secondly, we have a wonderful church in our city here, the Reformed Church on Bedoff Avenue. They are having what's called Christ's Cupboard. It's a ministry of the Brooklyn Reformed Church, which is located on 9014 Bedoff Avenue. They are going to be holding coat, clothing, and more giveaways. It's coming up Saturday, October 7th. This is a wonderful thing. The Reformed Church is actually a distribution center for coats for kids. They are looking for, and they have said in the past that Brooklyn residents are extremely generous. They are looking for donations, any kind of donations, whether it's monetary, whether it's clothing, anything that it could be, just gently worn. So they kindly ask that if you have anything at home to drop it off a week before at the church. And you can call the gentleman who's in charge, and his name is Mike Bunaski. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And he can be reached at 216-323-1745. On this Saturday, October 7th, when they have this function, they get very many needy families. It's not just from Brooklyn, it's from all over. So they open their doors to everyone. And their motto, which I truly love, is, "Whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers, you do for me." So if you have it in your heart to donate or whatever, please make it a point to go over there and make a donation. With all the tragedy and the catastrophes we've had these past few months, once again, Brooklyn residents are very generous. I know people like to donate. I know myself, you like to donate to such horrible catastrophes, but some places such as the Red Cross, they're looking for donations, the Salvation Army, many of the churches, Catholic Charities. I do know Catholic Charities, if you plan to donate, 100% of your donation goes specifically for that tragedy. You may want to look into them and see how your funds would be going. So if you have any ideas about donating, please check that out. Lastly, I would just like to thank the Brooklyn Preschool. I know my little kids, when they were younger, went there, and they always did such a wonderful job, and I'm glad to hear that they were recognized. And, of course, Medical Mutual coming into our city, it's only a sign of good things that are happening in our city, and people are starting to realize what a great city we are. And I always like to thank, in the fall, the Brooklyn High School Band, because I get to hear the wonderful music and the band music. And many times, I kind of march or cut the grass to the beat of their drums. So that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Belver. Next up is Mr. Tansky.
Thank you. Good evening. I hope everyone had a good summer and welcome back. Brooklyn held its summer picnic at Memorial Park on Saturday, August 19th. This family fun-filled event was a huge success. The weather was great, the food was delicious. There were plenty of activities for all. We all enjoyed live music from Time Warp and Fastlane. The all-day event concluded with a spectacular fireworks display. I would like to thank Brooklyn's Chamber of Commerce for their sponsorship, and a special thank to you, Mr. Bob Hennings, who made that happen. Great job. And to our safety forces, who always do a great job. Thanks to all those who donated to make this event possible, but most of all, thanks to our residents who came out and enjoyed themselves. We will work hard to make next year's event even better. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Tansky. Just a couple of things. You've already heard me talk enough tonight, but as far as the hurricanes, Harvey and Irma, it hits close to home with me. Back in 2002, there was a tropical storm that went through Pensacola, and a dear friend of mine actually drowned in that storm. And so every time these things come through, it hits close to home. So certainly our thoughts and prayers are with those. Mrs. Belbeer gave a list of people to charities to donate to, and I strongly recommend that people do that. There are a lot of needs down there, so please keep the families in particular in their thoughts and prayers. It'll be 15 years ago, actually. It's hard to believe that my friend drowned back in 2002. Also, the picnic in the park, unfortunately, I was not able to attend. I am working on my master's, and so I was in my office for about 10 hours that day working on that, but I heard the fireworks, and they sounded great. And so I thank you so much for all those that put that on. It sounded like a great time, and hopefully next year I'll be able to get to that. Just a couple of comments to set some things straight that were sent tonight. It's very difficult to twist a good thing like Medical Mutual coming here into a bad thing, but Medical Mutual coming here is a fantastic thing. As Ms. Tomuska just mentioned, American Greetings is not Class A office space. It is not. I don't know what exactly it's classified, but it's not Class A. And we are hoping that $23 million of improvements, that's a lot of money that's going to be going to that facility, will upgrade that, but it's certainly not Class A. As far as the PUD goes, I support that. I still support it. I think it would be a good thing for our city. I think that 16% of the voters in Brooklyn said no, that was enough this time for it not to happen. And so hopefully in the future we'll be able to do something. We do need to develop undeveloped areas in the city, and the PUD will do that. The PUD has been mentioned 100 times before, would not have taken any parks. The Geist plan that Mrs. Pucci referenced a second ago would move the parks, but it was not going to take any of the parks. And Project Century was called Project Century because we had to keep it confidential. We have, it's very easy. Hindsight's always 20/20. The Monday morning quarterback. We had no idea when the PUD was coming that Medical Mutual was going to come here. I mean, we can't predict that into the future. We're thrilled that they're here, and I'm glad that they're coming. But the PUD was a very forward-thinking item, and I hope that we can do something with the undeveloped portions of our property here very, very shortly. Like I said before, I thought it was a very good thing for our city, and I do think that in the future we're going to see more things like that. Obviously, it got voted down this time. We'll have to do better next time to inform the residents and change the things that they're requesting. But I'm thrilled that Medical Mutual is coming. This is a good day for the city of Brooklyn. And this is a very good day for us. We've been talking a long time about American Greetings and the property being vacant. And now in just a couple of years, a major employer, Medical Mutual is a major employer, is going to be coming to our town. And so I echo the sentiments of my council members, and I'm just thrilled that they're coming. And the government, as Mr. Musko said, it's better when they just get out of the way and let people do it. And Medical Mutual came to us, and now we're just kind of going alongside of them and just allowing them to come in here. And I'm thrilled that they're coming. And with that, we'll move on to the mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. I hope everyone had a terrific summer. I want to thank my city council for coming in over the break so we can move city business forward. I know there was a lot of special meetings, and I appreciate their time. I'd also like to say some thank yous from events that took over during the summer. I know people already mentioned Picnic in the Park. I just really want to thank the Chamber of Commerce, the Board of Directors, as Chriselle said. They put a tremendous amount of work and time into this event for the city, and they really do it truly for the residents. I want to thank the businesses who donated to the event. I know a ton of the chamber members donated their time, also their money, but also the businesses in this community that made the fireworks possible. And also I want to thank the auxiliaries who donated their time. They did not take a paycheck to come work the event, as well as Bob Hennings, our now you're retired, but former service garage worker, who's trained in letting off fireworks, who donated his time instead of charging the city. So thank you, Bob. Also over the summer, Chief Milky and I were honored to recognize Patrol Officer Jared Coachman. He was able to locate a psychiatric caller who was in duress outside, who didn't know where she was located. If it wasn't for his work, the outcome of this call could have been deadly. So I just wanted to thank Patrolman Coachman in public for all he's done. Additionally, Detective Sergeant Joe Tenenfeld was honored with the 2017 Silver and Gold Award for his investigation into the missing little girl that was located in Missouri. So congratulations to Joe Tenenfeld as well. I also want to say some thank yous. I received a bunch of messages and calls on the arrival of my second child, Jack. So I just want to say publicly thank you for all the phone calls. I appreciate that. Also, I want to thank the people who live on Northcliffe. They have a block party every year, and they've been having this block party for over 15 years. It's just a great event. It's all the neighbors getting together. They have music. All the families come out and serve food. And I really just think that if more streets had these block parties, it would be a good step in the direction of starting these neighborhood watches too. So, you know, the resident on the streets, that if anyone wants to call him that organizes that, I can put him in touch with you. So if anyone's interested in doing that street, let me know. Ms. Pucci already mentioned this. Council met over the summer to hear the GUIS feasibility study. This $50,000 study contract was approved by City Council back in December of 2016. As part of this study, a steering committee of various residents picked by the administration and members of council was put together. This group worked with GUIS to look through a concept of a city center. This city center concept was first introduced back in 2008 with the city master plan, and this was the beginning basis for this discussion. The group went through and approved concepts for future discussion with City Council and the public. These concepts were given to City Council along the way as well. The city concept has generally been confused with this plan unit development zoning that was put on the ballot in May. So the PUD would have allowed the zoning changes. The city center concept would be an idea of a PUD. So they're two separate things, and I still think a lot of people are getting confused. As I walk door to door streets, people still don't see that there's a difference in that. So if something were to ever happen when we did this again, I really think our campaign efforts have to explain the zoning a little bit better. Many of the ideas of the city center and both the GUIS suggestions were presented, as well as in the old master plan, can still move forward without zoning changes. So the public needs to be aware of that, but obviously we want public buy-in. No matter what we do, whether we need to be approved by the voters or not, we want public buy-in. So even if we were to move forward with some changes, we do want the public to look at these plans and say, yes, this is a good idea for our city. Each city council member has voted or publicly stated they were in support of the city center concept. So as an administrator, I move forward looking at this GUIS study and how we are going to decide what city council members are supportive to push out to the public from here. Mr. DeMarco had an interesting comment at the city center, the GUIS feasibility study meeting. He brought up the concept of looking at Marquardt Park as an area to develop houses. I've never heard of, an idea like that, but that's one concept we can look at. But I'm sure every single council members have ideas about what to look at for city projects in the future. So the first thing I'd like to do is finalize our discussions with the city budget for 2018, and then I'd like to call a meeting with City Council to discuss where we're going to go forward, if any, with the city center concept. As I go door to door, a lot of times I get asked, why don't you say things back? When you know something's wrong, why don't you say things back? And I'm of the opinion is, a lot of things don't necessarily have to be said back. The whole point of my job, the whole point of our jobs, is to move the city forward. So, when people say false statements and stuff, I typically don't say anything, but I think I need to start. So, Steve, you mentioned that we stated in the public meetings that, we weren't able to bring in any businesses with this Medical Mutual. What we said is we don't have Class A office space. So this Medical Mutual deal, which was Project Century, I've been working over a year on with the brokers. We didn't know the business because we can't know the business, but we had two concepts presented to us, a headquarters and a back office. If passed the next meeting, we are going to get the back office. We weren't able to secure the headquarters. And, Medical Mutual bought the building downtown, but that is the idea that Mr. Udrih said over and over again, that it's going to be hard to retain a headquarters like American Greetings in that property again. And It's exactly what came true. So you could keep twisting and turning the words, but that's not reality. And I really urge you to go back to the meetings and watch them. And another thing is, people ask me, oh, well, you know, you showed this plan, and I keep saying it's a concept. We could have went forward with showing no plan, no picture of what a city center concept would have been. But it's on the flip side, I would have been said, oh, you're trying to hide something. You didn't show anything. Well, we tried to show a concept just to give people an idea, but that's what it was, a concept. It wasn't the actual final plan. So I just wanted to get that kind of off my chest, and if anyone has any questions about this, it's over and done with, but call me up. My cell phone is 216-469-2561. Call me anytime and ask me questions. Moving on to other matters, I wanted to talk about what we could do to help with the Hurricane Irma. We did reach out to the American Red Cross. They said the best thing that residents do if they want to support is either donate blood or cash. That is the best thing that you can do to help. Also over the summer, we hired a part-time animal control officer. Her name is Miranda Broud. She starts this week. She is also the part-time ACO for the city of Parma. She is very energetic. She's already gotten donations from PetSmart for these animals, and we're very happy to have her here. Also next week we'll have the groundbreaking of Brooklyn Point. This is the assisted living facility that will be on Northcliffe, so I'm glad to see that they're starting to move on this project. I know that this has been something that's been in the works for that property for nearly 20 years. Some upcoming events we have is the Shunpike Shop on September 23rd and 24th. On the 23rd is from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and on the 24th is noon to 3 p.m. Fall Festival is on September 30th and it begins at noon. I do have a coffee with the mayor on October 13th and that starts at 9 a.m. Mr. Utras could not stay for the meeting tonight. I just got an email just a few moments ago, and I do want to congratulate him. He was named by the Chamber of Commerce the Bright Star Award. I know he's been working very closely with the Chamber of Commerce since he started his job, so congratulations on that award. He did want me to report that Indigen has moved into the American Greetings Old Property, IRG property, and they're in the process of hiring 80 employees right now. This is their first year requirement. National Safety Apparel is located there. This is 35 new employees for this month. Ryder Truck, construction is nearly complete on Brook Park Road. AutoZone has submitted plans to the building department to replace the staples on Brook Park Road. 8500 Clinton, the Weston property, has been filled by Guardian Building Supplies with 100,000 square feet and 5+ new jobs. And he is also working with Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, the Metro Parks, and Walmart to improve the flooding area there. And Parma is also working with this coordination, so hopefully in the future we can minimize the flooding impact there. And additionally, Mr. Utras is working with Team NEO to do a road extension in the American Greetings property. The state has verbally committed to a certain amount of money as we see these new jobs that are coming from out of state, specifically like Indigen and National Safety Apparel, that qualifies us for some money to help with building new roads back there. So that's it, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll now move on with our director's reports. We begin this evening with our Finance Director, Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you. I just have some quick updates here. Basically, I wanted to let everybody know that the city's 2016 CAFR has been made publicly released by the Auditor of State's Office. It's been posted to the city's website under the Finance tab. So if you have any questions about the 2016 financial statements, please let me know. The other big update I wanted to discuss that we went through extensively in the Finance Committee is the updated RETA projections. The last time we had a city council meeting, the RETA projections were quite different for 2017. So from June until September, there's been a significant swing upward in the 2017 RETA projections for the gross collections associated with municipal income tax. I provided City Council with an overview of that and hope to dive deeper into that for the budget discussion, the 2018 budget discussion next Monday at 6 p.m. in the city council conference room. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Next up is our fire chief, Chief Zemek.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to recognize Lubrizol and the Red Cross. We joined forces, Brooklyn Fire and those two. Lubrizol sent a lot of volunteers out. And on July 14th, we went door to door on North Cliff and Delora. 70 homes were reached. Some people weren't home. And 181 fire detectors were installed free. So again, I wanted to thank the Red Cross and those volunteers from Lubrizol for doing that for the city of Brooklyn. And you had mentioned about the county all hazards mitigation plan. 5 years ago, we adopted that as part of our emergency plan too. This is just a 5-year renewal. Nothing in that plan has changed. But like Council President Van Kirk said, this allows us, if there's any natural disasters, tornadoes, flooding, anything that damages city-owned property and or city-owned buildings, we can go for reimbursement. And it starts at the county level, then goes to the state level, and then goes to the federal level. If you remember Superstorm Sandy, it came through. I was able to apply and receive for the city over $32,000 back, in damages. And had we not had the county mitigation plan adopted, we couldn't have done it. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Before I move on, I failed to mention this in my report, but I want to also thank Chief Zemek. Our church every year does a First Responder Sunday where we honor all of our first responders, and Chief Zemek was able to get the Life Flight helicopter from University Hospital land at our church yesterday, and also the fire truck was there, and an ambulance, and Chief Melky got the SWAT team vehicle there, and the kids had an absolute blast. And so I wanted to thank the chiefs for doing that. I don't know where Chief Melky went, but thank you so much for doing that. It was a lot of fun for the kids. They really enjoyed that, and obviously thank you for all you guys do every day. All right, we'll now move on with our building commissioner, Mr. Kolsar.
Thank you. I just wanted to give a little update of how we were doing in the building department with regards to all these projects you're hearing about. New businesses that are coming in. So already as of this time in this year, there's been over $14 million worth of construction that has occurred through permits that we've issued. This is commercial and residential projects throughout the city. Last year, our total for that year in improvements was just over $8 million. So we still got a lot of time left in this year and some big projects coming up. So this isn't all just commercial projects. Right now, this year, in residential improvements in our existing homes, we've seen over $3.4 million in improvements. And last year, the entire year, it was just at 2.1. So I see things really trending up with properties getting improvements done. Of course, new businesses, commercial tenants coming in and updating buildings and setting their feet into the city. Another note, a couple weeks ago I was able to attend the Ohio Floodplain Management Association conference in Columbus. It was really informative. Of course, now with flooding happening everywhere, it's like, you really got to consider it. Just because we're not in Hurricane Alley doesn't mean we're not susceptible to it. We actually have a floodplain going through the city. And if anybody ever has any questions regarding their property's floodplain insurance, which is required if you have a mortgage and your property structure is in the floodplain, I can help you with that. So keep that in mind. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kolsar. That's all reports for this evening, so we'll now move on with our legislation. Excuse me, the first item we have is a liquor permit request for La Plaza Nuevo at 7106 Vidoff Road. Chief Melky has no objection. This is a new liquor permit.
Move for a position of no objection. We need a second.
Second.
Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
No.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko?
Yes.
Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Belbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Ordinance 2017-61, amending section 1501.11, section 5, quote, permit issuance, application, revocation fees of the codified ordinances of the city of Brooklyn. This is on second reading. Next is ordinance 2017-63. This is on second reading, but we do hope to pass by emergency this evening. This is authorizing and approving the purchase, installation, and training of a My Senior Center system for use by the Brooklyn Senior Center for $4,000. So anyone on council have any comments or questions?
Introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko?
Yes.
Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Belbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
To adopt, did you guys motion in a second? To adopt Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko?
Yes.
Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Belbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Next up is Resolution 2017-10. This is on first reading. This is approving and adopting the countywide all hazards mitigation plan for Cuyahoga County, 2017 to 2020 update. This is the plan that Chief Zemek just talked about. It's on first reading. Next up is, we hope to pass by emergency this evening, is Ordinance 2017-64, assessing unpaid cost of abating nuisance and hazard violations of Section 521.14 of the codified ordinances of the City of Brooklyn, Ohio. The total amount is $5,625. Any comments or questions?
May it just be recognized?
Yes.
Just for the information of residents, this is so we can recoup $5,625 that the city had to expend in cutting properties where people are not upkeeping, like the grass cutting and et cetera. Introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko?
Yes.
Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Belbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
To adopt, Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko?
Yes.
Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Belbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Next up is Ordinance 2017-65. It's on first reading, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Juvenile Diversion Coordinator. Ordinance 2017-66, we hope to pass by emergency this evening, amending Section 2 of Ordinance 2017-32, entitled Establishing a City Ice Time and Admission Rate for Persons Using City Ice for Figure Skating Purposes Only.
Introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Any comments or questions before we do that? Okay.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko?
Yes.
Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Belbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
To adopt, Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko?
Yes.
Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Belbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Next up is Ordinance 2017-67. We hope to pass by emergency this evening. This is amending Section 1109.01 of the codified ordinance of the City of Brooklyn. This will prohibit the cultivation, processing, or dispensing of medical marijuana in the city. I do want to read the subsection G that will be entered into 11.09.01. It says this: notwithstanding any other provision of this zoning ordinance, no word or phrase in this zoning ordinance shall be construed to mean or to permit medical marijuana to be cultivated, manufactured, or dispensed, which uses are specifically prohibited in all zones in the city. As used herein, quote, medical marijuana shall have the same meaning as in Revised Code 3796.01, and cultivate, manufacture, and dispense shall have the same meaning as in Ohio Administrative Code 3796:1-1-01. Any comments or questions on this? Introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko?
Yes.
Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Belbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
To adopt, Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko?
No.
Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Belbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Next up is ordinance 2017-68, which we also hope to pass by emergency this evening. This is authorizing and approving the expenditure of not to exceed $28,000 for emergency repairs to the International Packer 5644, as specified in the proposal of Cerny International. The quote right now is at $23,604.66. There's a cushion in there for additional expenses because this is an engine repair and there often are expenses, additional expenses that will be incurred. Any comments or questions?
Introduce by all, suspend the rules.
Second. To suspend the rules, Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko?
Yes.
Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Belbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
To adopt, Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko?
Yes.
Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Belbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Ordinance 2017-69 is on first reading this evening, amending section 105.04 of the codified ordinances of the City of Brooklyn to require minutes of meetings to be posted online. Next up is ordinance 2017-70. We hope to pass by emergency this evening, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Public Entities Communities of Ohio for the purpose of providing property and casualty insurance for the City of Brooklyn for the coverage period beginning September 25th, 2017, for a total annual cost not to exceed $118,582. Any comments or questions, council?
Introduce by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko?
Yes.
Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Belbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
To adopt, Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko?
Yes.
Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Belbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Ordinance 2017-71 is on first reading, authorizing the mayor to enter into a job retention and creation grant agreement with Medical Mutual of Ohio. Sister ordinance, ordinance 2017-72 is also on first reading, approving and authorizing the mayor to execute a community reinvestment area tax agreement with Cleveland American LLC, Holdings Cleveland American LLC, and Medical Mutual of Ohio at the estimated cost of $23 million.
May we recognize?
Yes.
Just so everyone's aware, there are some minor changes in the wording, and Mr. Butler will have that out to us for the next meeting when we can amend it.
Any comments or questions from anyone on council? Any motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
To adjourn, Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko?
Yes.
Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Belbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed evening.